Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Maturity is not about forcing your way into someone's life, nor is it about convincing others to choose you. Maturity is the art of understanding that your worth is inherent and doesn't rely on anyone else's decision. It is knowing that you are enough, just as you are, and that the people who are meant to be in your life will naturally find their way to you. Self-worth is something that each of us is born with, a fundamental quality that is intrinsic to our being. It does not depend on external factors like achievements, appearances, or the opinions of others. Rather, it is the recognition that we are valuable simply because we exist. In a world where people often tie their sense of worth to how others perceive them or how much they can accomplish, understanding that self-worth is inherent becomes a liberating realization. From an early age, society begins to shape our understanding of value. We are conditioned to believe that our worth is linked to what we do or how we look. We start to internalize messages about success, beauty, and social standing, often measuring our value against these external standards. As we grow, we find ourselves caught in a cycle of seeking validation from others, constantly striving to prove our worth through accomplishments, possessions, and the approval of those around us. However, this external validation is fleeting and unreliable. The applause fades, the achievements lose their significance, and the approval of others can shift at any moment. What remains, however, is our intrinsic value, the deep-rooted understanding that we matter just because we exist, not because of what we do or how others perceive us. True self-worth is grounded in the acceptance of who we are, not in a checklist of accomplishments or appearances. It is the quiet knowing that we are deserving of respect, love, and kindness, not because of anything we've earned or achieved, but simply because we are human. This understanding empowers us to navigate life with a sense of inner peace and stability, unaffected by the fleeting opinions of others or the transient nature of external success. When we embrace the idea that our worth is inherent, we begin to detach from the need for constant validation. We stop seeking approval from others, whether it's in our personal relationships, at work, or in the world at large. This doesn't mean that we no longer value feedback or appreciate the support of those around us, but rather that we are no longer dependent on it for our sense of self. Our worth is not a currency that can be earned or lost based on the actions or perceptions of others. It is a fixed, unchanging truth about who we are. This recognition also frees us from the need to compare ourselves to others in a world that often encourages competition, comparison, and constant striving. We may feel that our value is diminished if someone else is more successful, more attractive, or more popular. But when we understand that self-worth is inherent, we no longer need to measure ourselves against others. We realize that our unique qualities, experiences, and perspectives are what make us valuable, not the standards set by society or the accomplishments of those around us. We are valuable simply because we are individuals with our own experiences and contributions to make. Embracing our inherent self-worth also helps us to set healthy boundaries and make better decisions for ourselves. When we truly understand that we are worthy of respect and love, we are more likely to walk away from situations, relationships, or environments that don't honor or appreciate us. We are no longer willing to settle for less than we deserve because we know that we are enough. This confidence in our worth enables us to make choices that align with our values and desires rather than trying to meet the expectations of others or seek validation from external sources. Additionally, recognizing our inherent worth allows us to be more compassionate with ourselves. We often live in a world that encourages perfectionism, where mistakes and failures are seen as shortcomings rather than opportunities for growth. When we understand that our worth is not tied to our perfection, we become more forgiving of our own flaws and imperfections. We no longer feel the need to be perfect in order to be valuable. Instead, we see ourselves as works in progress, deserving of love and acceptance at every stage of our journey. This shift in mindset also transforms our relationships with others. When we recognize our own inherent worth, we are better able to recognize and appreciate the worth of others. We approach relationships with a sense of mutual respect and understanding, rather than trying to prove our value or seek validation. We are able to give love and care freely without expecting anything in return, because we know that we are already whole and complete within ourselves. We no longer rely on others to fill a void or make us feel valuable. Instead, we enter relationships from a place of abundance and self-assurance. Ultimately, understanding that self-worth is inherent is a revolutionary shift in how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. It frees us from the chains of external validation and societal expectations and allows us to embrace the truth that we are valuable simply because we exist. This realization empowers us to live authentically, with confidence, and to navigate life with a deep sense of inner peace and self-respect. When we recognize our inherent worth, we stop seeking approval, stop comparing ourselves to others, and stop allowing external factors to dictate how we feel about ourselves. Instead, we stand firmly in the knowledge that we are enough just as we are. In life, relationships are often a source of immense joy, growth, and support. However, one of the most significant lessons we learn over time is that not all relationships are meant to be. Just as we may feel a deep connection to some people, we may also find that despite our efforts, some relationships simply don't thrive. It's easy to get caught up in the desire to make relationships work, particularly when we care about someone or believe that a certain bond is important. But forcing relationships is rarely productive and can often lead to frustration, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. At the core of forcing a relationship is the belief that we can somehow manipulate or influence the natural flow of connection between people. We might try to convince someone to like us, be more invested, or return feelings of affection even when the dynamic isn't reciprocal. It's tempting to believe that if we just try harder, if we just change ourselves to meet someone else's expectations, or if we just more of ourselves, the relationship will improve. But relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendship, should be built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared willingness to connect. Forcing them goes against these essential elements and often leads to resentment and disconnection. Forcing relationships can also stem from an unhealthy fear of loneliness or rejection. The idea that we must have certain people in our lives to feel complete can make us hold on to relationships that aren't serving us well. We might find ourselves staying in friendships, partnerships, or even family dynamics out of a fear of being alone or being seen as inadequate without these connections. However, the more we try to force a relationship to work, the more we may find ourselves drained and unfulfilled. The emotional energy we expend in trying to keep something alive that isn't growing or thriving could be better spent nurturing relationships that are genuine, healthy, and mutually fulfilling. One of the most profound realizations that come with maturity is that not all relationships are meant to last. People grow, change, and evolve, and sometimes that means the connection between them will no longer align. It can be difficult to accept that some relationships, no matter how much effort we put into them, may not have the depth or longevity we wish for. It's important to acknowledge that relationships serve different purposes in our lives, and not all of them are meant to remain indefinitely. Sometimes it's okay to let go and trust that new connections will form when the time is right. Additionally, forcing relationships can prevent us from fully embracing and understanding who we are as individuals. When we invest too much energy into making a connection work, we can lose sight of ourselves in the process. We might change our habits, our personality, or our values to meet the expectations of someone else, forgetting that true relationships flourish when both people are able to bring their authentic selves to the table. When we try to force a relationship, we risk losing our sense of self in the pursuit of approval or acceptance from others. It's also important to understand that healthy relationships are based on mutual effort, not a one-sided commitment. If one person is constantly doing all the work, it's a sign that the relationship may not be as balanced or healthy as it should be. Relationships should be a partnership with both parties contributing equally in terms of emotional investment, time, and effort. Forcing someone to reciprocate feelings or actions that aren't natural for them creates an imbalance, often leading to frustration on both sides. People should never feel like they are being coerced or manipulated into staying in a relationship. True connection can only occur when both individuals are genuinely interested and willing to be present. There is also a sense of peace that comes with releasing the need to force relationships. When we stop trying to control who stays and who goes, we create space for authentic connections to enter our lives. This doesn't mean that we stop trying or caring about people. but rather that we begin to accept that the best relationships are the ones that grow naturally and without undue pressure. People who are meant to be in our lives will show up and stay, not because we convince them, but because they genuinely want to be there. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with messages about the importance of a social status, connections, and appearances, it can be difficult to let go of the idea relationships should always work out if we try hard enough. But the reality is that some relationships are not meant to be, and that's perfectly okay. There is great strength in recognizing when it's time to step back, allow things to unfold naturally, and focus on cultivating the relationships that are authentic, nurturing, and reciprocal. The effort to force connections only drains our energy, while letting go allows for growth, both individually and within the bonds we cherish most. Respecting your own boundaries is one of the most important acts of self-care and self-respect you can practice. Boundaries are not just about setting limits with others. They are about understanding and honoring your own needs, values, and emotional space. Often, people find themselves overwhelmed, stressed, or resentful because they fail to establish or protect their personal boundaries. Whether it's saying no to a request that doesn't align with your values, protecting your time from being overextended, or simply not allowing others to take more than you're willing to give, setting boundaries is crucial for maintaining your well-being. At the heart of respecting your boundaries is the understanding that you have a right to your own time, energy, and emotional space. It's easy to feel guilty about setting limits, especially in cultures that place a high value on people, pleasing, and constant availability. Many people have a tendency to put the needs of others before their own, which can lead to burnout, resentment, and a loss of personal identity. The truth is, it is not selfish to protect yourself. It is necessary for your mental, emotional, and physical health. When you respect your boundaries, you are acknowledging that your needs and feelings are just as important as those of others. One of the most challenging aspects of respecting your boundaries is learning to say no. Saying no does not mean you are rejecting or hurting others. It simply means you are being honest about what you can or cannot offer at any given moment. People often fear that saying no will make them seem rude or uncaring, but the reality is that it is a powerful and healthy way to communicate your limits. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you are making space for something that is aligned with your values and well-being. Saying no isn't about rejecting others. It's about prioritizing yourself in a way that allows you to show up as your best self for those you care about. Another crucial element of respecting your boundaries is learning to communicate them clearly and assertively. Often, people assume others will recognize and respect their boundaries without any direct communication, but this is rarely the case. By clearly expressing your limits, you not only help others understand what is acceptable to you, but also set an example of how to respect others' boundaries in return. It can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent a long time neglecting your own needs for the sake of others. But once you start establishing clear boundaries, it becomes easier to uphold them. The more you practice setting and communicating boundaries, the more you empower yourself to live authentically. Respecting your boundaries also means not allowing others to push past them. This might involve standing firm in situations where people try to pressure you into doing something you don't want to do or feel uncomfortable with. It can be difficult to assert yourself, especially when others don't respect your boundaries or when you fear their reaction. However, failing to stand up for yourself can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even self-doubt. The more you allow others to trample on your boundaries, the more you diminish your sense of self-worth and self-respect. On the flip side, when you consistently honor your boundaries, you reinforce to yourself and others that you deserve to be treated with kindness and consideration. Resisting the temptation to overextend yourself is another important aspect of respecting your boundaries. Life often demands more of us than we can reasonably give, and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we must always be available, always be doing something, or always be giving. But constantly being on and available to everyone else can drain your energy and leave you feeling depleted. Learning to set boundaries around your time and energy, whether it's making space for rest, setting aside time for activities that bring you joy, or simply saying no to extra commitments is essential for maintaining balance and preserving your mental and emotional health. When you honor your own needs, you show up better for the people and commitments that truly matter to you. Lastly, respecting your boundaries means being compassionate with yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of guilt or self-criticism when you first start setting limits, especially if you're not used to prioritizing your needs. It's important to remember that respecting your own boundaries is not a one-time action, but an ongoing practice. Be patient with yourself as you navigate this process. There will be times when you falter, but that doesn't mean you've failed. Each time you honor your own limits, you are strengthening your sense of self and building healthier, more respectful relationships with others. Ultimately, respecting your boundaries is a form of self-respect that fosters personal growth, inner peace, and healthier, more authentic connections with the world around you. In a world that often values control, structure, and precision, the idea of letting things unfold organically can seem counterintuitive. We are taught to plan, to organize, and to ensure every step is mapped out in advance. There is often a sense of urgency to make things happen, to force situations to align with our desired outcomes. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, the most beautiful and meaningful experiences emerge when we release our need for control and allow things to unfold naturally. Letting things unfold organically is about accepting the unpredictable nature of life and embracing the idea that not everything needs to be forced into existence. Whether it's relationships, career paths, or personal growth, when we stop trying to control every aspect of our journey, we create space for unexpected opportunities and experiences that we may not have anticipated. It is in this space of uncertainty that we often find some of the most fulfilling and rewarding aspects of our lives. When we let things unfold, we trust in the process and recognize that some things take time to develop. Relationships, for example, cannot be rushed. We cannot force a deep bond between two people. It takes time to nurture trust, understanding, and connection. Whether it's with friends, family, or romantic partners, trying to push things to move faster can lead to pressure and disappointment. People need space to grow and evolve in their own time, and forcing them to meet our expectations can undermine the authenticity of the relationship. The best relationships often develop slowly and naturally, with each person allowing the other to come into their own and understanding that love, connection, and trust take time to build. Similarly, in our careers and personal endeavors, we cannot expect immediate success or instant results. If we are constantly trying to control every aspect of our professional journey, we can become frustrated and when things don't happen as quickly as we want them to. However, letting things unfold allows us to be more present in the process, enjoying the journey instead of obsessing over the destination. The most successful people often talk about how their achievements came about in ways they never expected, through serendipity, timing, or simply being open to opportunities that arose naturally. By being open to the flow of life, we can allow ourselves to grow and evolve in ways that we couldn't have planned for. Letting things unfold organically also involves letting go of the need for perfection. We live in a society that often expects perfection, but perfection is rarely natural. It's something that is imposed upon us, and the pursuit of it can be exhausting and unfulfilling. When we allow things to unfold as they are, we give ourselves permission to embrace imperfections and mistakes as part of the learning and growing process. Mistakes are often the catalysts for change, growth, and new opportunities. The more we accept the unpredictability of life and let things happen as they may, the more we learn to embrace imperfection and trust that the outcomes will be just as they are meant to be. This mindset also helps us to be more adaptable and resilient. Life will never unfold exactly as we expect or plan. There will always be obstacles, setbacks, and challenges that test our patience and resolve. However, when we learn to let go of the need to control everything, we become more flexible and able to navigate these challenges with greater ease. Instead of resisting the natural flow of life, we can learn to go with it, adjusting our course when necessary and trusting that things will work out in the end, even if we can't always see the bigger picture. The beauty of letting things unfold organically is that it creates space for magic to happen. When we release the pressure and the expectations, we can step into a more relaxed state of being, open to what the universe has to offer. Life has a way of surprising us with opportunities and experiences that we couldn't have planned for, but only if we allow ourselves to be open to the unknown. By trusting in the process, we give ourselves the gift of peace and clarity, knowing that sometimes the best things come when we start to force them and simply let them happen in their own time. Understanding life's flow is about embracing the natural rhythms of existence and learning to move with them rather than against them. Life is constantly in motion, shifting and changing in ways that we often cannot predict or control. We are often taught to strive, to push for success, and to make things happen. While effort and determination are important, there is also a deep wisdom in understanding that not everything can be forced. Life's flow is about recognizing that sometimes the best thing we can do is let go of the need to control every aspect of our journey and instead learn to work with the forces around us. At its core, understanding life's flow means accepting the inherent unpredictability of life. No matter how much we plan or how hard we work, there are always elements outside of our control. People, circumstances, and events can take us in directions we didn't anticipate, and the more we try to resist these changes, the more difficult our path becomes. Life's flow is about surrendering to the unknown, trusting that even in moments of uncertainty, there is a greater order and purpose unfolding. When we let go of the need to constantly direct the course of our lives, we open ourselves to the possibilities that arise naturally along the way. This doesn't mean abandoning goals or direction. Rather, it means learning to navigate the challenges and twists of life with a sense of fluidity and grace. Life's flow is not a straight line. It is filled with curves, detours, and pauses. By understanding this, we become more adaptable and open to change. Instead of resisting or fearing the obstacles and unexpected turns that come our way, we learn to see them as part of the journey. Each challenge offers an opportunity for growth, for learning, and for discovering new aspects of ourselves we may never have encountered if things had gone as planned. One of the most important aspects of understanding life's flow is being present in the moment. Often, we get so caught up in planning for the future or reflecting on the past that we fail to fully engage with the present. Life's flow can only be experienced in the now, in the unfolding of each moment as it comes. By being mindful and embracing the present, we allow ourselves to respond to life's opportunities and challenges with greater clarity and awareness. We begin to see the connections between events, recognizing how everything is linked in a larger interconnected web. When we are present, we are more attuned to the subtle cues that guide us toward the next step on our path. Understanding life's flow also means learning to trust in the timing of life. We often want things to happen on our schedule, but life doesn't operate on a timeline that we can control. Sometimes the things we desire may not come when we expect them to, or they may come in a form that we didn't imagine. However, when we trust that life unfolds in its own time, we begin to feel less anxious about the future. We realize that everything happens when it is meant to, and that timing is often more important than we realize. By letting go of our need to force things to happen, we allow space for life to surprise us with exactly what we need when we need it. Embracing the flow of life also means accepting that not everything is permanent. Relationships, careers, and experiences come and go, and the more we cling to the idea of permanence, the more we struggle when change inevitably occurs. Life is fluid, and it is this constant motion that creates room for growth, renewal, and transformation. Understanding life's flow involves accepting this natural cycle of beginnings and endings, knowing that every ending makes way for a new beginning. When we learn to release our attachment to what was and trust in what is to come, we free ourselves from the fear of loss and the desire to hold on to things that no longer serve us. Ultimately, understanding life's flow is about letting go of the need to control and embracing the beauty of life's natural progression. It requires patience, trust, and a willingness to face the unknown with open arms. When we stop fighting against the current and instead learn to ride with it, we find that life becomes less about striving and more about being. It is in this space of surrender that we find peace, fulfillment, and a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. There is a profound sense of freedom that comes from letting go, yet it is often one of the hardest things to do. We are conditioned to hold on tightly to people, experiences, possessions, and even emotions, believing that our identity and happiness depend on them. However, the true freedom lies in releasing our grip on these attachments, recognizing that clinging to them can sometimes weigh us down rather than elevate us. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It's about freeing ourselves from the chains of unnecessary burden and embracing the peace that comes with acceptance and release. The act of letting go is often associated with loss or surrender, but it's important to understand that letting go is not about losing something of value. In fact, it is the opposite. It is about creating space for new possibilities, growth, and healing. When we hold on too tightly, whether to people, expectations, or past experiences, we prevent ourselves from evolving. The past, however painful or joyful, can often hold us captive if we are unable to release it. Our attachment to old wounds, past failures, or even former successes can cloud our present and limit our potential. Letting go allows us to move forward without the heavy weight of history weighing us down. Often, we hold on to relationships, both romantic and platonic, long after they've run their course, either because we fear being alone or because we feel responsible for the other person's happiness. We may even hold on to toxic relationships out of a sense of guilt or duty. But this is where true freedom lies in letting go. It's not about abandoning others, but rather about honoring ourselves by making space for the relationships that nurture, support, and uplift us. Letting go of relationships that no longer serve us allows us to create room for healthier connections, ones that reflect who we are and who we are becoming. Letting go also means releasing our attachment to the idea of control. Life is unpredictable, and as much as we try to plan, we cannot control every outcome or dictate how things unfold. By holding tightly to control, we often find ourselves stressed, anxious, and disappointed when things don't go according to plan. Letting go of control is liberating. It doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or becoming passive. It means accepting that there are things beyond our control and learning to trust the process. When we let go of the need to control every situation, we allow life to unfold naturally, often in ways that exceed our expectations. Another form of letting go is the release of negative emotions like anger, resentment, and fear. These emotions can trap us in cycles of negativity, preventing us from experiencing peace and happiness. By holding on to grudges or past hurts, we essentially allow them to continue affecting our present. Letting go of these emotions is not about forgetting or excusing wrongdoings, but rather about freeing ourselves from their grip. It's about recognizing that by holding on to negativity, we are allowing the past to dictate our present. The freedom that comes from releasing these emotions is transformative. It opens the door to healing, growth, and the ability to move forward with a lighter heart. Letting go also applies to our expectations. So often, we become attached to specific outcomes, whether it's how we want our career to unfold, the person we hope to be, or the way we envision a situation playing out. These expectations can limit our potential and create unnecessary frustration. By letting go of rigid expectations, we open ourselves up to the possibility of something even better than we imagined. Life rarely turns out exactly as we plan, but it often brings us experiences and opportunities that are richer and more meaningful than anything we could have predicted. When we let go of the need for perfection or specific outcomes, we free ourselves to embrace whatever comes our way with an open heart and mind. In every aspect of life, letting go is a pathway to freedom. It allows us to release burdens, let go of attachments, and open ourselves to new experiences. It requires courage to release what no longer serves us, whether it's people, emotions, or expectations. Yet in that release, we find liberation, a freedom to be who we truly are, to evolve, and to live in the present without being bound by the past or obsessed with the future. Letting go is not a loss, but a gain, offering us the space to be more authentically ourselves and to live more fully in the flow of life. In the end, true freedom lies not in holding on, but in letting go. When we release the things that no longer serve us, whether they are relationships, expectations, or emotions, we create the space for growth, healing, and new opportunities. We free ourselves from the weight of the past and allow ourselves to embrace the beauty of the present moment. Letting go is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. It takes courage to trust in the flow of life and to surrender control. So as you move forward, remember that the greatest freedom you can experience is the freedom that comes from within, freedom from attachments, from fear, and from the need to control everything. Embrace the power of letting go and watch as life unfolds in ways you could never have imagined.